The mall was buzzing that afternoon, polished floors reflecting the footsteps of thousands, the air thick with the scent of fried food and perfume samples. Families strolled, teenagers laughed too loudly, and shopkeepers called out their offers. But amid that shine and consumerist glamour, one man stood out like a shadow, ragged, worn, and out of place. His coat was tattered, shoes scuffed, hair unkempt, and beard grown long. He walked slowly, carefully, as if measuring every step, like someone not accustomed to being in such a bright and crowded space. To most passers-by, he looked like nothing more than a homeless drifter who had wandered inside to escape the heat outside. People gave him side glances, some disgusted, some curious, some indifferent. Mothers gently steered their children away. A group of teenagers whispered and snickered. And then there was Frank, the mall's senior security guard, a man who took his job far too seriously, often confusing his polyester uniform for a badge of supreme authority. Frank spotted the ragged man near the fountain at the center court. He narrowed his eyes, his jaw tightening. Frank was the type who thrived on asserting dominance over those he thought weaker. He puffed up his chest, adjusted his cap, and stormed toward the man with an air of someone about to crush an insect. "You, hey!" Frank barked, his voice carrying across the court. Heads turned, phones tilted upward, eager to capture another possible viral spectacle. The ragged man raised his eyes, calm but tired. "Yes?" he asked softly. His voice carried an odd weight to it, steady, commanding even, though spoken quietly. Frank scoffed. "Don't yes me! You don't belong here. This is a private property, customers only." "I am a customer," the man replied. His voice had no trace of begging or defensiveness, just a simple statement of fact. He held a small bag in his hand, from which the corner of a receipt poked out. But Frank didn't even glance at it. "Don't play games with me. You think buying one cheap snack gives you the right to hang around here? Look at you dressed like that and making people uncomfortable. This isn't a shelter. Out. Now." The ragged man shifted slightly, still calm. Around them, whispers grew louder. Someone began recording on their phone. Frank seemed to revel in the attention, his chest swelling with pride. "I'm not causing trouble," the man said, his tone still composed. "You are troubled just by being here," Frank snapped, stepping closer. "I don't want to see you another second. Leave before I drag you out myself." The ragged man sighed quietly, his hand tightening on the bag. He looked into Frank's eyes, and for a fleeting moment, something flickered there, something sharp like a blade hidden beneath rags. But he said nothing more. He simply reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. The crowd leaned in, curious. Frank smirked, expecting maybe a wrinkled dollar bill or some pathetic attempt at dignity. Instead, the man opened the wallet and pulled out an ID card. He held it up for Frank to see. The guard's grin froze. His lips parted, but no words came out. The badge wasn't one of poverty. It was crisp, embossed with authority, bearing the unmistakable seal of the state. Bold letters spelled out words that sent a chill up Frank's spine. Special Agent, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones zoomed in, people whispering in disbelief. Frank blinked, stammering. This can't be—" The agent spoke, his tone now firm, each syllable deliberate. "You just harassed and attempted to forcibly remove a federal officer conducting a covert assignment. Do you understand the gravity of what you've done?" Frank's face drained of color, his puffed-up chest deflated like a punctured balloon. His eyes darted around, as if hoping for escape, but the crowd was closing in, their phones raised like a jury of 100 witnesses. The agent stepped closer, his presence suddenly towering, regal even, beneath the worn coat. He asked, "Do you know what respect means?" His voice low but heavy. "It means treating everyone, rich or poor, clean or dirty, as human. And today, You failed." Frank's lips trembled. I didn't know, sir. I thought—" "You thought wrong. You judged by appearance. You mocked a man you believed beneath you, and you did it in front of all these people. Now they know what kind of guard protects this place." The silence in the mall was deafening. The hum of the fountain seemed louder, echoing against the marble. Frank's eyes glistened with sweat. He glanced at the mall's management office in desperation, but no one came to his aid. The agent held his ID card high so all could see. "Remember this moment. Authority is not a uniform. Power is not humiliation. True authority comes from discipline, humility, and respect. And today, you've shown none of it." Phones captured every word. Whispers turned into a wave of murmurs, then into open stares of disdain, directed not at the agent, but at Frank. The guard looked smaller than ever, his arrogance shattered. The agent slid his ID card back into his wallet, his movements precise, deliberate. He straightened, suddenly taller, more imposing than any polished manager or overzealous guard. Then, without another word, he walked away. Each step echoed like a gavel striking judgment. The crowd parted for him with quiet reverence, not because of the badge, but because of the way he carried himself. Dignified, commanding, yet humble. Frank, meanwhile, stood frozen in the court, the weight of humiliation crashing down upon him. He wasn't just embarrassed. He had been exposed. And this was only the beginning. The mall never forgot that day. By the following morning, the video had already gone viral. Clips spread across social media, racking up millions of views, with captions like, "Guard gets instant karma after mocking FBI agent in disguise," and "Respect everyone, you never know who they really are." The mall's corporate office received floods of angry emails demanding action. Customers vowed to boycott. Local news stations replayed the confrontation on repeat. Frank's face, once smug, was now plastered across every screen with shame frozen in his wide-eyed stare. But humiliation was only the surface of his downfall. Behind the scenes, the man he had mocked, Special Agent Daniel Kane, was no ordinary agent. Kane wasn't just a field investigator. He was head of a covert task force monitoring financial fraud tied to businesses within the mall itself. His ragged appearance wasn't accidental. It was camouflage. Kane had been gathering intelligence quietly, testing the integrity of people around him, blending into the background where no one would look twice. Frank had done more than disrespect him. He had interfered with an active federal operation. When Frank reported to his shift 2 days later, his badge and keys no longer worked. 2 men in suits were waiting for him at the entrance. They weren't mall managers. They were federal officers. "Are you Frank Dawson?" one of them asked flatly. Frank nodded, throat dry. "You're coming with us." His legs nearly gave way. Am I under arrest?" "Not yet, but you will answer for obstruction, harassment of a federal officer, and potential compromise of an undercover assignment." Shoppers stopped and stared as Frank was escorted out of the mall in full view, his arms gripped firmly by the men in suits. His former colleagues, guards he once barked orders at, stood in stunned silence. The balance of power had flipped completely. Inside a cold, windowless room, Frank sat across from Agent Kane himself. Kane no longer wore rags. He was dressed sharp, suit tailored, his ID displayed proudly on the table. The transformation was jarring. This was the same man Frank had called troubled just by existing. Frank stuttered. "Sir, I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know who you were." "That's the point. You didn't care who I was. You didn't care if I was a customer, a veteran, or a man down on his luck. You only saw weakness. You only saw someone you thought you could trample. Frank lowered his gaze. For once, no excuses came. Cain leaned forward. Do you know what compromise means in my line of work? It means lives. It means criminals slipping away. It means justice delayed. All because one man couldn't control his arrogance. I didn't mean... Cain's eyes pierced him. You meant every word you said to me that day, and now the world has heard them too. For weeks, Frank's name trended online as a symbol of arrogance backfiring. Job applications were rejected instantly. Neighbors whispered. Former friends avoided him. Even his family looked at him differently, ashamed of the man who had become a national lesson in respect. But Cain didn't stop there. His mission wasn't revenge, it was accountability. The mall itself came under investigation. Several stores were found laundering money. Corrupt managers who had long ignored staff misconduct were suddenly exposed under federal scrutiny. The reaction was massive, and all of it had started with one moment of arrogance at a fountain. Months later, the mall reopened under new management. A plaque stood in the main court near the fountain. It read, "Respect all, judge none. True authority lies not in appearances, but in integrity." The inscription carried no name, but everyone knew the story behind it. As for Agent Cain, he continued his work, slipping in and out of disguises, carrying his mission forward quietly. To him, it was never about personal pride. It was about principle. Every man, woman, and child deserved dignity. That truth was stronger than any badge, stronger than any uniform. Frank, broken and forgotten, often returned to the mall in secret, staring at the plaque with burning regret. He was no longer feared, no longer respected. He was just another man among the crowd, stripped of his illusion of power. And Cain's words echoed in his mind like a verdict he could never escape. Authority is not a uniform. Power is not humiliation. True authority comes from discipline, humility, and respect. The mall never forgot, neither did Frank, and never again would he mock a stranger, for he had learned the hard way. In seconds, arrogance can crumble, and true authority can rise in the most unexpected form.